on to the Switch 2. We don't have to spend a bunch of time on this. I think a
I
lot
think
of
we
people
might
know.
actually.
You think
I,
you want to spend a lot of time on
I,
it?
I mean, we might. I got some stuff I want to say.
All right, let's hear what Dave has to say. I already put what I had to say on our YouTube Shorts here, but let's see what Dave has to say.
Okay. The number one thing about the Switch 2 to me is at this point, I'm gonna be honest, like I'm the biggest fanboy in the world. I'm retro gamer. I grew up NES, Super Nintendo, got my N64. Like I love Nintendo. I'm
Mhm.
kind of ready for Nintendo to die.
Ooh,
Do you know what I mean? Like I'm kind of over it. Are you kind of
I
over it at this point?
I can't say I'm over it, Dave. I mean, I think there's such like the IPs are too strong to just say, okay, no more Nintendo. And I don't. The Nintendo will never release their IPs to any other
that
console or anything.
Like, that's the problem, dude. I'm not excited for like, I don't want Nintendo IPs to die. I want the
Yeah,
Nintendo console to die.
yeah.
Like, I get it that they'll never release their IPs anywhere else, but they really should.
I don't think they need to.
I don't, but that's the problem though, dude. It's like at some point, it's really frustrating to be a Nintendo gamer, right? And they kind of know that because they know as long as they don't release their IPs anywhere else, that you have to buy a Switch or you have to buy whatever Nintendo console they put out. But they also know that the Nintendo consoles they put out are not strong enough to run other games. So unless you're like dedicated Nintendo player, you still need to buy another console anyway. And I think that they either I think they either need to put their games out on other consoles and give people a choice, or they need to make a console that can actually withstand the demands and requirements of developers right now so that people that are invested in Nintendo and buy a Switch can play every game that they want to play.
I think right now the games are pretty playable, but as the games get more progressive and bigger again, so Cyberpunk 2077 runs pretty smoothly on the Switch too, from videos I've watched and things like that. But as the games get better and better and better, the Switch 2 is going to be obsolete in, I'm going to guess, less than 2 years. Like I said that in 2 years, games like GTA, or I know Mortal Kombat 1 ran terribly on the Switch.
Yeah. Like
Kombat comes out with the next Mortal Kombat or whatever, it's not going to run. Or if you look at, why is Call of Duty not on the Switch 2? Because the game's not going to be able to be handled by Nintendo Switch's hardware. It's
right.
just not going to happen. Even in its current state, I don't think the Switch can handle Call of Duty.
Yeah. And like that's the thing. It's like, yeah, you can say right now that the Switch, for the Switch 2 at current moment can run some stuff, right? But like the Switch is always playing catch up.
Yep.
You will never be ahead of the curve. Like
Right.
I grabbed my PS5. I've had my PS5 for forever, and I feel very confident that that's going to be fine for a really long time. And
Right.
you don't feel that sense of security when you get a Switch. Like
Nope.
you are like you said, the shelf life on this thing is like if everything runs smoothly for like the next year, your Switch was a success.
Right.
Yeah, and
And
it's
I
true.
think another problem with it is the way the Switch does it. You buy the Switch 2, you're like, Switch 1 people, they're not going to get the new Mario Kart World. They're not going to get these games because they're like, oh, who cares about them? The people that can't, or that have had their Switch for so long, but now they can't afford the second one, or just don't have the means to upgrade to the Switch 2 because one, they're sold out already. Where are you gonna? You can't get a Switch. There's no. Where can you buy a Switch 2 right now? Nowhere.
Uh, eh, People hawking them, resellers. I mean, it's the same thing as a PS5. If you want to Switch right now, it's going to cost you $700 because it's somebody flipping it.
Do you think that they will release these games on Switch 1 a few months down the road? I don't remember them doing that for the Wii U, but I could be wrong. I wasn't a big into Wii U or the Switch when it like moved over.
I think it might be based on demand. I mean, to go from the Switch 2 backwards compatible to a Switch is way different from going Switch backwards compatible to Wii U because the Wii U and the Switch are totally different consoles. But like, I don't know, maybe do they maybe? I mean, they most likely have to be thinking about it right now because people can't get Switches. Like they can't get Switch 2s right now. So most likely probably thinking about it. But in the same turn, it's like, I don't know. If they don't, would I be surprised? No, because I just don't feel like Nintendo has the best interest of the gamer in mind anymore. You know what I mean? And like I kind of grew up in the era of like Nintendo. You felt like they, I don't know, like they're still a big corporation and like, it's all about the money and stuff, but like you kind of felt like they cared about like the gamer, you know what I mean? Like they were innovative. They tried to put out good quality products. Like I don't know. It just seems like they care. And then somewhere along the way, they kind of lost their way. I don't know if it happened. Like, did it happen with the Wii U? Because I feel like the Switch, I feel like the Wii when they got motion kind of, they got into the motion game. Maybe like a Switch flipped with them, and it went more cash grab. But like, I don't know. Ever since since I think the N64 was the last console that is like the Nintendo of my generation. I feel like they just don't care about the gamer anymore, and it's kinda sad.
And you can tell because the way they or the level of spec that they released for the Switch 2. Yes, it is an upgrade. Yes, could it be considered the Switch 2? I know I said this is just a refresh update, but you look at it compared to the Switch 1 OLED. The OLED has the better screen, and I just don't know why they wouldn't release that with this one. They're capable of doing it. They did it with the OLED, so
Yeah,
why would they not do it with the Switch 2? Because they want to make a Switch to
to
OLED.
OLED, yeah, in a year and a half.
Exactly.
Yeah,
The Switch 2 Pro or whatever, but it's pretty disappointing that they definitely upgraded the console. They have a better processor, they have better graphics, you can play at 4K 60 when you use the dock, you can do a lot of these things that you couldn't with the original or the Switch 1, like 120 frames per second at 1080 when you're in the console. Yes, it's going to be very smooth, but why not give it an OLED? Why not set the standard for handheld consoles?
and I mean, they have competition now. I mean, we're
Yeah.
gonna talk about it in a minute. Microsoft's coming out. I mean, the Steam Deck's been going strong. They have competition now, you know what I mean? And to I don't know. To They definitely did an upgrade. They
Mhm.
upgraded it. I'm not saying that they're not upgrading it. They definitely did an upgrade. But for me, I don't know if like you said, this is more like the Switch Pro to me. Like, is it
Yeah.
enough of an upgrade to warrant an entire new console? Like, no, I don't think I can ever get behind that.
It's not an upgrade to warrant leaving the Switch 1 in the dust and not letting them have games. You look at PlayStation and Xbox, they would still release their games for PlayStation 4 and
Right.
Xbox One. They didn't say, "Oh, sorry, you didn't get it. You don't get to play these games." Like
Right.
that sucks. That sucks for all the gamers that like I said, they can't afford them or they just don't have the means to get it. They just left a huge number of players out of being able to upgrade their games
Yeah.
or get newer games.
Yeah, and I mean, and you guys know I'm a Sony fanboy, so I mean, it's probably I'm biased here, but like I think Sony's transition from the PS4 to the PS5 went very smoothly.
Yeah.
Aside from the fact that you couldn't get them, but you have to look at the time when the PS5s were coming
Yeah.
out. There was a lot going on there.
There's
Uh,
COVID, the
There
big
was
chips, like people are scalping the chips, things
yeah,
like that. Yeah.
there's a lot happening there. But the transition from the PS4, they didn't leave PS4 gamers in the dust, and they gave them like, I've never seen a company kinda, like, do the way that they did the transition, but it's like
Mhm.
they still cared about the PS4 users because they
Yeah.
knew like the PS5 was hard to get, right? So they were still putting games out. Not only were they still putting games out on the PS4, but a lot of games, if you purchased them on PS4, you would get a free PS5 upgrade for that game
Right.
that you could use when you eventually got your PS5. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
they didn't leave people in the dust. And I feel like what you said with them just leaving Switch users in the dust, like I feel like they did it.
Yeah.
And I feel like they don't really care about it either.
Nope. The Switch 2 does have you can play your Switch 1 games, so that's nice,
Yeah.
but the Switch 2 games can't play on the Switch 1. But it just stinks, man.
Yeah.
I hate it for people, you know?
I really do. And the one thing that I think we really need to talk about, because take all of that aside, I can put all that aside. The one thing we really need to talk about is the user update. The user
Mhm.
agreement update. Did you read the user agreement update?
I have not read it, but I know what it is. It's
Yeah.
basically that you're renting or leasing your Switch to, and they can brick it anytime they want.
Yeah. So this is for you guys that don't know. I'm going to read this. So I'm sorry. I'm
Mhm.
going to look at my notes, but these are direct quotes that are in the user agreement. And I think it's really important that we get these right. In the original user agreement, it states users are not allowed to lease, rent, sublicense, publish, copy, modify, adapt, translate, reverse engineer, decompile, or disassemble all or any portion of the Nintendo account services without Nintendo's written consent unless otherwise expressly permitted by law. Basically, what they're saying hacking, modding, piracy, bad.
Which is bad in general.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
fine. That's pretty standard stuff. Yeah, I'm not going to say that hacking and modding and stuff like that is we don't even need to get into that
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
But like in the sense of just general terminology that would be in the user agreement, this is fine. Now the new one, this is where it gets me. What they've added to that is this statement here. You acknowledge that if you fail to comply with the foregoing restrictions, Nintendo may render the Nintendo account services and or the applicable Nintendo device permanently unusable in whole or in part. Which means if they feel like you have broken any of the terms in the above statement, they reserve the right to not only remove your Nintendo account, but also brick your console,
Yeah.
which is absolutely insane. And this is something that like you don't have a say in.
Right.
You need to agree to this before your Switch will work.
Yeah.
So like you don't have a say in any of this. And this is like this goes even further for me, which I don't think a lot of people are talking about because it's like, oh well, how would they know? This is very, very important. How would they know? Because if you continue reading the agreement, it says that at certain times, the Nintendo Corporation reserves the right to listen to users' chats in order to support a safe and family friendly environment and detect violations of the Nintendo account agreement and other harmful or illegal interactions. Which means the people at Nintendo are listening to your game chat whenever they want. And if they're putting this in the agreement, that also means that that little Switch camera, that's the brand new Switch camera, they're probably turning that bad boy on too. Yeah. So I don't
You
know,
know,
man.
there is another game or corporation that does that too right now, and that's Activision or Call of Duty. They ban people based off of game chats and stuff if they say bad things and stuff. So you're
Yeah.
getting listened to in Call of Duty. So I think that's going to kind of be the norm. But the fact that they're using it to brick consoles and stuff like that, that's crazy.
I mean, like you might get banned from Call of Duty. That's one thing, but breaking your $500 Switch
Yeah.
and what like well, like on what charges? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
are they going to have definitive evidence?
Yeah.
What happens if they brick a console and they do and it wasn't warranted?
Right.
What if they're listening in on something and it's like
And
that
misheard or
yeah, it's like
something. Yeah.
misheard or you know what I mean? And why
Yeah.
and they're I don't know, dude. This is too much. This is too
Yeah.
much for me. This is too much invasion of privacy just to play a game console.
Whatever. People are buying them. People are loving them. And Switch fans, again, we're not trying to bash on you, but just know you're getting yourself into some crazy stuff with the Switch too.
Switch 2 is definitely going a little crazy. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it ends up. We'll see if anybody's
They
console.
want that cheddar cheese fry.
We'll see if anybody's console ever does get bricked at this
I think they
moment.
have. There's been people that have been trying to mod them and it bricked it instantly.
Did it brick it
They put one
already?
of those like modded Switch or cartridges into their Switch and it's gone.
Just
Dunzo.
Dunzo.
Dunzo.